All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. What's going on, guys? Early chatters are in. Plenty of people in the chats. Welcome. We have people watching on Rockfin. Please come join me on Rockfin. Gonna let you know tomorrow I'm gonna do a Rockfin exclusive stream. I won't be uploading to YouTube. So if you want to watch tomorrow's show, you got to come to Rockfin. That's all I'm going to say about that. So yeah, Rockfin tomorrow at 11 a.m. will be a Rockfin only stream. But welcome and greetings. So let's get into it. I'm not going to be too long today, or not. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about, so I don't want to try and get too long. But give me 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. All right, so I want to get into this. I think saw this a few places, but Nick Humphrey posted this on his page as well. Bullseye of climate warming could mean, sorry if I'm loud, could mean 100-degree Phoenix nights. More wildfires across Arizona. Ooh, youch, 100-degree nights. I mean, I believe, didn't we already experience that in the Middle East? I mean, I believe that's already been breached. The 100-degree nights have already been breached. Let me check one time. Yeah, I've seen in places in the Middle East that, it hasn't dipped below 100 degrees in the nighttime. Oops. Anyways, didn't mean to do that. Where are we? Where'd it go? I think I lost my... that's why that happened, because I lost my thing. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's what I was looking at. Sorry, guys. Confusion. Yeah, last year was a record breaker for heat in Phoenix. There were a total of 145 days of high temperatures reaching at least 100 degrees. Experts see that trend continuing in 2021. Of course, don't call it an anomaly, call it a trend. Last year's record occurred in the middle of October and broke the previous mark set in 1989. New York University Urban Studies professor Andrew Ross said, unless something changes, whatever it is, I mean, it's just kind of a nonsense state. Unless something changes, I mean, we've already set in motion this massive change in the climate and environment and biosphere of the planet Earth. We've pushed this huge boulder into motion downhill. Unless something, I don't know what, if something changes, there will come a point when the thermometer won't drop below 100 degrees at night. The increases in temperature in the Southwest and Phoenix in particular is in the bullseye of climate warming. Well, kind of everything is. It's heating up and drying out faster than anywhere else in the hemisphere. Ross's assertions are reinforced by experts at the National Weather Service and Flagstaff, which recently released its wildfire season outlook for this year. According to the Associated Press, forecasters say conditions and indicators add up to above normal fire threats by April at lower elevations from southeastern Arizona to Yavapai County, and similar threats spreading north along the Mongolian Rim by May. That's it. That's all there is getting warmer and hotter. Pretty much all there is getting warmer and hotter. Jacob Gordon says, unless Something changed in 1900. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a weird thing to say. Unless something changes. Unless the entire mass of humanity, all 8 billion of us, all put our shoulders in the same direction and heave ho. And that's not just something. Scott Andrews says it's so hot around Phoenix that even the cactus are dying. Let's check in on the Rockfinners. Ryan Gorman is here. Poppy Davis is here. Raza is here. Osama's here. Guao Mashi. Bill Gabriel. Turkish BBN fan. Hello. Thanks for hanging out on the Rockfins, guys. No food can grow if nights are above 104 for 4 nights in a row. I would imagine. I would imagine that it wouldn't even take 104. Because if the nights are 104, what are the days? For one. Irk one says heave ho like you're at the Capitol. Okay. Maybe so. Maybe so. Is everywhere going to see 100-degree nights? No, but I mean, have you ever tried to sleep when it's 80 degrees outside at night? When the low is 80? It's damn uncomfortable. Damn uncomfortable. Imagine a 90-degree low. That is horrific. 100 degrees, I can't even imagine a 100-degree low at night. But by the time we get to 100-degree lows at night, we're going to have a lot more problems all over the place. But let's move on. Saw this in a few places on Twitter. And we're going to read this for a couple of laughs and guffaws and knee slaps. Oh, and, look, I'm not going to down this article just on GP, but this is from Michael Mann. And it's also on a website called Crikey, which I think is hilarious. Anyways, beware the soft climate doomists who sow the seeds of non-solution solutions. So let's see what Michael Mann is talking about. In this extract from his latest book, The New Climate War, scientist Michael Mann explores the concept of soft doomism. It's, somewhat akin to soft denialism, or I don't know what, or is it just adjacent to hard doomism or regular doomism, or is this doomism light, or is this neo-doomism, and how it threatens vital action. Among the many challenges facing climate change activists is what climate scientist Michael Mann calls soft doomism. In this extract from his latest book, The New Climate War, The Fight to Take Back Our Planet, he looks at soft doomism, how far it has spread, and what it means for climate change action. If outright doomism is generally too shrill to gain much currency in mainstream climate discourse, what we shall henceforth refer to as soft doomism has found its way to the very center of the conversation. Soft doomists don't quite argue for the inevitability of our demise as a species, but they typically imply that catastrophic impacts are unavoidable and that reducing carbon emissions won't save us from disaster. It's doomism dressed up, you might argue, in more respectable clothing. And there's nothing worse than bad things dressed up in respectable clothing. You know what I'm saying, Michael Mann? I think you know what I'm talking about. Soft doomists tend to use terms like panic. Time to panic was the headline on a 2019 New York Times op-ed by David Wallace Wells, author of The Uninhabitable Earth. According to Cheryl Kirschenbaum, executive director of the nonprofit organization Science Debate and host of the National Public Radio podcast Serving Up Science, Stoking panic and fear creates a false narrative that can overwhelm readers, leading to inaction and hopelessness. We don't want to scare the children, is what they're trying to say. Please, you don't want to sugarcoat the truth for people because people are too, too soft, too squishy. They're not adults enough to deal with the truth. I mean, that may or may not be true. Adults can't handle the truth. So, let the adults tell you how it is that you need to talk about the truth, because the adults know how to talk about the truth, because the children can't handle the truth, because other adults can't handle the truth. I mean children. When I say children, I mean adults. Panic is a word that conjures images of people running, screaming through the streets with their hands over their heads. Crikey! It evokes irrational, desperate, rash behavior rather than considered, well thought out, deliberate action. The latter is helpful, the former is not. And it can lead us to very strange and uncomfortable places, and where we do not want to go. We do not want to go there. Let's concede that the P word is appropriate in some contexts. Consider, for example, Greta Thunberg. In her message to world leaders gathered at Davos, Switzerland in January 2019 for the World Economic Forum, she chastised the crowd for having failed to act meaningfully on the climate crisis, telling them, "I want you to panic." In that context, it is reasonable to interpret her comments as suggesting that the attending politicians and opinion leaders deserve to feel the scorn of young people like herself calling for action. But for Pete's sake, we cannot we can't panic other people. We can panic some people, but we can't panic other people. We want to panic world leaders because children are undeniably panicked, but we don't want to panic the children. We don't want to panic, the adults. But the children are panicked, but we don't want to panic the children. The adults. Indeed, her subsequent statement was, "And then I want you to act." But unfocused and diffuse panic messaging can lead to counterproductive actions. As we have seen, it has led to support for potentially dangerous geoengineering schemes, which have been sold as a necessary last-ditch means of averting climate devastation. I'm going to stop right here and say, what are you talking about? Because who's supporting dangerous geoengineering schemes? I would say that most people don't support dangerous geoengineering schemes. When you explain the science to people, when you explain what's going on and what's happening and what that could mean, most people would go, "Nah, I'm good." Most scientists would say, "No, that's not a good idea." So who supports the potentially dangerous geoengineering schemes? I'll tell you who. It's the people in charge. It's the people at Davos. It's Harvard scientists, David Keith, Ken Caldera. It's the adults in the room who support geoengineering schemes. So who the fuck are you talking to, Michael Mann? Who are you talking about? Their support only, by the people who are in charge. Not, all the other people are like, "Yeah, no, we don't want that." There's a whole website, there's a whole YouTube channel about geoengineering that is really super popular because people really don't like geoengineering. Geoengineering is a very popular subject because people are afraid of it, because people are afraid that we're being geoengineered already. And they might actually be right. So who supports this? Anyways, read no further than the headline of the December 2019 Washington Post op-ed. "Climate politics is a dead end, so the world could turn to this desperate final gambit." Yes, a Washington Post op-ed. That's who's talking about it, Michael Mann. Who's supporting this? Crazy lunatics, that's who's supporting it. Not regular people. Why don't you tell regular people the truth, no matter how hardcore it is, and let them decide what they want to do. Soft doomism has become increasingly widespread. Its basic tenets have been adopted by groups like Extinction Rebellion, which takes the position that we are facing an unprecedented global emergency. So Extinction Rebellion is our soft doomists, and that's bad. That's very bad to wake people up to the climate emergency. Again, we don't want to scare the children, but the adults in the room are definitely going to do the right thing. Michael Mann is a full-blown neoliberal head up his ass kind of guy. But we already knew this. But that's fine. Let's create more ways in which we can divide. You're a soft doomist. You're a hard doomist. There are 3 million splinter groups, and you're not in any of the clubs. Nobody's in the club. In mid-January 2020, a curious online article was making the rounds. Curious. Ironically well-titled Climate Fatalism. While the article was unsigned, it was sponsored by an organization called the Freedom Lab, which described itself as an innovation hub and think tank that produces actionable insights, which it shares through regular publications and public events. The article embodies the ambivalence and internal contradictions that have come to characterize soft doomism. Soft doomism sounds, I don't know, sounds like a kink. I'm kind of into soft doomism, you know what I'm saying? Last year, it begins. Several alarming reports made it clear that immediate and radical action is needed to prevent disastrous levels of global warming. Ding. It's a promising start, acknowledging the problem and treating the reader to action. However, in the very next line, the author writes, action is nowhere to be found, and we are bound to hit the tipping points of global warming that will render any further action irrelevant. What's not true about that? And what is wrong with saying that? Because that's actually the truth. Action is nowhere to be found, or very little of it. And we are bound to, what action is Michael Mann proposing, or what is he taking part in? Other than, how about some carbon credits? Or what? I don't know what action Michael Mann is suggesting we take, or what kind of groups he's part of. It's an abrupt turn towards doomism and futility that is made even more confusing by the sentence that follows, which warns of the threat of the very sort of fatalism that the article is promoting. As this notion spreads, 2019 can see many of us falling prey to climate fatalism. Dun, dun, dun. And a shift in political focus towards climate adaptation, because, that's just to adapt to the idea that we have pushed the biosphere out of equilibrium. What a wild idea that is. Despite the contradictions, the piece has an agenda. Agenda. You know that anything with the word agenda in it is bad, bad, bad. It concludes with a prescriptive statement masquerading as a predictive one. We will see a shift from preventing climate change to adapting to and battling the effects. How about both? What's wrong with both? Much of this will entail engineering. To build dams and extreme weatherproof buildings, for instance, it's likely that governments will shift funding from preventative measures to these kinds of adaptive solutions. What's the difference between building dams and extreme weatherproofing and building, 1 billion electric cars or solar panels or windmills? What's the difference? There is absolutely none. Absolutely no difference. What's the difference between that and transforming our energy systems to better adapt to climate change? It's going to create millions of jobs. Despite the contradiction, the piece has an agenda. We already read that. The message is that climate change is bad, very bad, but we will fail to act to solve it, so we might as well just adapt to be more resilient and, explore techno fixes. We've heard the story before. It is the non-solution solution. Well, so without being too crappy about this, why is this a non-solution? Why can't there be multiple solutions? Why can't there be a varied array of solutions? Why can't people talk about all kinds of different ideas, Michael Mann? Why is this a bad idea to talk about? Why is only the way you want to talk about things is the only way to talk about it? Soft doomism, in a sense, plays the same role among progressives that soft denial plays among conservatives. That is to say, it is a form of doomist rhetoric that is tolerated in polite company. And unsurprisingly, some prominent progressive climate and environment pundits have engaged in its rhetoric. Oh, bad. Well, I mean, what about this? What about, What about the idea that we have to, that everything is going to be fine if we're already on the right path? We're great. We're fine. We have plenty of room to maneuver in. That's the message I think that Michael Mann wants to tell everybody, right? Everything's okay. We're not going to hit the wall. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to, we've got time to turn this around and we're going to do it. Even though I don't know what Michael Mann is proposing. I don't know, what is he proposing? What are his plans for turning it around? Does anybody know? Has he actually spelled that out for anybody? Besides something like, we really have got to get the, besides something like, unless something radical changes, or we really got to get the scientific community on board, or we need some carbon credits, or I don't know, We've got to get back in the Paris Agreement. Like all these things that I'm assuming that Michael Mann has proposed as a solution to the climate crisis, that all these things are going to, send us down the road of success and, a rainbow future. I don't know. Man overboard, indeed. It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird article and it's a weird thing to say. But anyways, that's Michael Mann. He's put his 2 cents in. He thinks it's bad to scare the children. It's bad to tell people the truth. Only his truth is the truth. And the truth is everything's fine. Everything's fine. Climate change is really, really bad. We're about to go over the cliff, but everything's fine. We don't want to go doomy. We don't want to scare the children. We don't want to say that it's so bad. We just want to say that, where do you draw the line? I don't understand. He's so upset that people are drawing the line in a different place where he wants to draw the line, but it's basically the same fucking line. It's the same exact line. Every time Michael Mann opens his mouth, it's like he's like, I'm saying everything that everybody else is saying, but that, whatever they're saying is bad, but what I'm saying is the right way to say it. He's confusing as hell. Michael Mann is really confusing. I don't really even know what the point of anything that he's trying to say is, because he continually comes out and goes, man, climate change is a real problem. But the way these people are talking about climate change, now that's the real problem. That's literally what he's saying. And so I don't get it. I don't get what his standpoint is. I'm like, where do you stand on the issue of climate change? Because you pretty much stand where everybody else stands, but you're mad at where everybody else is standing. Oh, Boyd Rope Lamppost. Humans can't be trusted with knowledge. I think I read that in a book somewhere. And it might be true. It might be true. Jacob Gordon, verbal masking is the best way to keep people and your corporate masters appeased. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. What's up, Brock Fins? Kevin Shanholzer, unsurprisingly, progressive Russian bots and Assad apologists have engaged in this rhetoric. Mann is taking many actions such as writing articles and books, right? I wrote a book about it. You want to hear it? You want to read it? Here it go. Exactly. Exxon supports geoengineering. Right. I just... Bobby Davis. Don't be confused. Don't be confused. It's okay. I'm confused, though. But you don't be... I'm confused, but don't you be confused, okay? Got it, Poppy Davis? Got it? That's literally Michael Mann's standpoint. I don't know. Only I can tell people that it's bad, but if you tell people that it's bad, then that's bad. Stop doing that. I'm Michael Mann. Okay, I want to read this thing. Okay, I got two very interesting things to finish with. Okay, I'm about to read this article. Well, here we go. Let me just get into it. I found this super interesting. Carbon emissions are having an impact even at the edge of space. What's this you say? What's this? This is so interesting. While greenhouse gases are warming Earth's surface, they're also causing rapid cooling far above us at the edge of space. In fact, the upper atmosphere about 90 kilometers above Antarctica is cooling at a rate 10 times faster than the average warming at the planet's surface. Whoa. Our new research has precisely measured this cooling rate and revealed an important discovery: a new 4-year temperature cycle in the polar atmosphere. The results, based on 24 years of continuous measurements by Australian scientists in Antarctica, were published in 2 papers this month. The findings show Earth's upper atmosphere in a region called the mesosphere is extremely sensitive to rising greenhouse gas concentrations. This provides a new opportunity to monitor how well government interventions to reduce emissions are working. Our project also monitors the spectacular natural phenomenon known as noctilucent or night shining clouds. While beautiful, the more frequent occurrence of these clouds is considered a bad sign for climate change. Studying the air glow, since the 1990s, scientists at Australia's Davis Research Station have taken more than 600,000 measurements of the temperatures in the upper atmosphere above Antarctica. We've done this using sensitive optical instruments called spectrometers. These instruments analyze the infrared glow radiating from the so-called hydroxyl molecules, which exist in a thin layer about 87 kilometers above Earth's surface. This air glow allows us to measure the temperature in this part of the atmosphere. Our results show that in the high atmosphere above Antarctica, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases do not have the warming effect they do in the lower atmosphere by colliding with other molecules. Instead, listen to this, the excess energy is radiated to space, causing a cooling effect. Now hold on one second. I'm going to stop right there. Who was it that said that as the Earth gets hotter, we are going to radiate more heat to space? Was it Book Hermit? Was it Book Hermit, guys? Who was it that was in the chats at one time proposing that this is how it was going to go? If that's the case, I have to say, big up to, I don't know if it was Book Hermit or someone else, but I'm going to have to say, wow. Wow to this article. And is this, my next question is, I'm going to read a little more. My next question is this a negative feedback? Now, of course, we are getting warmer. The atmosphere is getting warmer, closer to the planet. That's absolutely happening. And, by all measurements. But is this cooling effect at the edge of space tamping down on the actual warming that we would be feeling? Is this a negative feedback on global warming on some level? And the thing is maybe it doesn't really matter. And the way that this is reading, the way this article is reading is that that this is just a sign of climate change or the rapid warming of the globe, of the planet. But I wonder if this is like keeping things in check on some level. Is this a negative feedback that is somehow helping us to keep from, warming up by many, many degrees Celsius, really quickly? TCR Galaxy, black body radiation, yes. Anyways, this is crazy. This is wild. I'm not saying that this, oh, this is great, we're saved. Not at all. Because, of course, the lower atmosphere where we live is still warming and we have higher and higher CO2 levels and methane and water vapor and, all the global warming things are still happening. But this is a very interesting idea. And Book Hermit, I think it was you. If you're out there, you are right. You are right on some levels. Does that change the timeline of global warming? I don't think so. I don't think it actually changes anything about whatever it is we're experiencing. But still, very effing interesting. Extremely interesting. And wow is all I can say. This is anyways, the excess energy is radiated to space, causing a cooling effect. Our new research more accurately determines this cooling rate. Over 24 years, the upper atmosphere temperature has cooled by 3°C. So we've warmed by, whatever, take your pick, 1 or 1.5 or 2 or, wherever we're at. The upper atmosphere has cooled by 3°C. This is about 10 times greater than the average warming in the lower atmosphere, and they're saying it's 1.3°C over the past century. Whoa. Untangling natural signals, rising greenhouse gas emissions are contributing to the temperature changes we recorded. But a number of other influences are also at play. These include the seasonal cycle, warmer in winter, cold in summer, and the sun's 11-year activity cycle, which involves quieter and more intense solar periods in the mesosphere. One challenge of the research was untangling all these merged signals to work out the extent to which each was driving the changes we observed. Surprisingly, in this process, we discovered a new natural cycle not previously identified in the polar upper atmosphere. This 4-year cycle, which we call the quasi-quadrennial oscillation, saw temperatures vary by 3 to 4°C in the upper atmosphere. This is amazing to me, to my brain. This is very amazing. Discovering this cycle was like stumbling across a gold nugget in a well-worked claim. More work is needed to determine its origin and full importance. But the finding has big implications for climate modeling. The physics that drive this cycle are unlikely to be included in global models currently used to predict climate change. But a variation of the 3 to 4°C every 4 years is a large signal to ignore. You're damn straight. That's a large signal to ignore. 3°C of cooling or 4°C of cooling in the upper atmosphere. And what does that mean? What does that mean to climate change, or how is that? Again, if we stopped all emissions today, what does this cooling on the outer edges of space, what does this mean to the overall warming of the planet? Do we still lose this heat or have a cooling effect on the edge of the atmosphere? What does that do to the rest of the warming, to latent heat already in, to whatever? What does this do to all that? I wonder. Our research also monitors how cooling temperatures are affecting the occurrence of noctilucent or night shining clouds, which we have covered on this channel before. We've talked about them. They are very rare. They occur at an altitude of 80 kilometers. And there have only been 10 recorded observations since 1998. That's how rare they are. 10 recorded observations in 23 years. You can only see them from the ground when the sun is below the horizon during twilight, but still shining on the high atmosphere. The clouds appear as thin, pale blue, wavy filaments. They are comprised of ice crystals and require temperatures around minus 130°C to form. While impressive, noctilucent clouds are considered a canary in the coal mine of climate change. Further cooling of the upper atmosphere as a result of greenhouse gas emissions will likely lead to more frequent noctilucent clouds. There is already some evidence that clouds are becoming brighter and more widespread in the northern hemisphere. Anyways, whoa. All I have to say is whoa. That is very intriguing. Incredibly intriguing. I don't know that it really changes, As long as we continue doing what we're doing, as long as everything goes forward the way it's going forward, then nothing changes. We're still, we're still doing what we're doing. But Wow Mashi, what it means is that the heat trapped on the surface of the Earth does not radiate back out. Likely it does nothing. No, but the thing is that it's radiating heat out into space on the outer atmosphere. So if there's a heat, in Walter Jane's theory of regenerative agriculture, one of the ways that you keep the temperature of the Earth cool is that it's actually water vapor that goes up into the upper, stratosphere and into the mesosphere, actually carry heat with it out into space. And this is it's transference of heat. It is a transference of heat. So if heat can transfer from the lower atmosphere to the stratosphere to the mesosphere and transfer out into space, it's a way to lose heat. I don't, putting this all together, obviously they don't really say what this means specifically to, the long-term modeling of global warming, but it's something to consider. But an interesting one nonetheless. Boulder of lamppost diffusion, yeah. But who knows? Obviously we've already set in motion something, on the surface of the planet. We've already set in motion something that is, got a lot of momentum. Gene says, yes, Kevin, we already studied this and it doesn't matter. Did we? I don't know that we did. I'm not really sure. If we did, I don't remember it. And I apologize, but I don't really. Guamashi says it's no more of a negative feedback loop than the radiation of heat from your hot car windows. But let's say the heat inside the car is generated by your engine, right? The heat engine of industrial civilization, the heat engine of humans on the planet doing what humans do. Let's say the heat in your car is not from the sun necessarily, but from the engine. Let's say you get a certain amount of heat from the sun, which we do. That's the Earth. But there's an added, you're running the car and the car's getting hot and there's additional heat inside the car. When you stop the car and stop the engine, there's still heat radiating out from the windows. I don't know. It's just an interesting, and it's something that is happening, right? It is happening. They are saying, hey, this is a large signal. What does it mean? Nobody knows. I don't know. It's just it's a really interesting thing. All right, guys. Before I get too long, give me 1 second. All right, before I get too long, I really didn't want to go this long, but one more thing I wanted to read you, just because this is so dang interesting. This is just super interesting. This is an article about why it was easier to be skinny in the 1980s. But the reason why I'm reading this is because this isn't a health and fitness show, but this, I think, has a lot to do with climate change, or how humans are changing the planet and thusly changing themselves. Let's read on. It's not very long. A study finds that people today who eat and exercise the same amount as people 20 years ago are still fatter. You feel like you work out, eat right, and you're still fat, you're getting fat or can't lose weight. There's a meme aimed at millennial catharsis called Old Economy Steve. It's a series of pictures of a late 70s teenager who presumably is now a middle-aged man that mocks some of the messages millennials say they hear from older generations and shows why they're deeply janky. I love that word, janky. Old economy Steve graduates and gets a job right away. Old economy Steve worked his way through college because tuition was $400 and so forth. We can now add another one to that list. Old economy Steve ate at McDonald's almost every day and he still somehow had a 32-inch waist. Why? Because he has a microbiome that allows him to eat Big Macs every day. A 2016 study published in the journal Obesity Research and Clinical Practice found that it's harder for adults today to maintain the same weight as those 20 to 30 years ago did, even at the same levels of food intake and exercise. The authors examined the dietary data of 36,400 Americans between 1971 and 2008 and the physical activity data of 14,419 people between 1988 and 2006. They grouped the data sets together by the amount of food and activity, age, and BMI. They found a very surprising correlation. A given person in 2006 eating the same amount of calories, taking in the same quantities of macronutrients like protein and fat, and exercising the same amount as a person of the same age did in 1988 would have a body mass index that was about 2.3 points higher. In other words, people today are about 10% heavier than people were in the 1980s, even if they follow the exact same diet and exercise plans. Our study results suggest that if you are 25, you'd have eaten even less and exercised more than those older to prevent gaining weight. Jennifer Cook, a professor of kinesiology and health science at Toronto's York University, said in a statement. However, it also indicates that there may be other specific changes contributing to the rise in obesity beyond just diet and exercise. Just what those other changes might be, though, are still a matter of hypothesis. In an interview, Cook proffered three different factors that might be making it harder for adults today to stay thin. First, people are exposed to more chemicals that might be weight gain inducing, pesticides, flame retardants, and the substances in food packaging might be altering our hormonal processes and tweaking the way our bodies put on and maintain weight. What about GMOs? How about the shit that's in the food? Why? I don't know. Anyways, second, why didn't she say that? The use of prescription drugs, because I think that's actually a larger part than even those other things. Second, the use of prescription drugs has risen dramatically since the 70s and 80s. Prozac, the first blockbuster SSRI, came out in 1988. Antidepressants are now one of the most commonly prescribed drugs in the U.S., and many of them have been linked to weight gain. What about the idea that there is a lot of these things in our waterways? Prescription drugs and their elements have now leaked into watersheds and our aquifers and the oceans and the rivers and the lakes that we're used to. Finally, Cook and other study authors think that the biomes of Americans might have somehow changed between the 1980s and now. It's well known that some types of gut bacteria make a person more prone to weight gain and obesity. Americans are eating more meat than they were a few decades ago, and many animal products are treated with hormones and antibiotics in order to promote growth. All that meat might be changing gut bacteria in ways that are subtle at first but add up over time. Cook believes this proliferation of artificial sweeteners could also be playing a role. The fact that the body weights of Americans today are influenced by factors beyond their control is a sign. Cook says that society should be kinder to people of all body types. Sure, but why not? Why isn't it a sign that maybe we should stop doing what we're doing as human beings on the planet? Why? The sign is that we should just be more accepting of people that are fat. I mean, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Who cares? Yeah, we should. Let's not fat shame people and be crappy to people. We should be kinder to people of all body types. Just period. We should just do that. But no. She's not going to say that maybe humans are doing bad things to the planet and therefore doing bad things to ourselves and therefore setting up a cycle in which humans just absolutely destroy everything. Nope. Didn't say anything about that. There's a huge weight bias against people with obesity. Okay. They're judged as lazy and self-indulgent. That's really not the case. If our research is correct, you need to eat even less and exercise even more just to be the same weight as your parents were at your age. Okay, that's fine. The exercise part is perhaps one area where old economy Steve doesn't have an edge. Anyways, that's it. It's very interesting, don't y'all think? How much, and actually, you know what I think I've said in the past, and my idea is that as we change the planet, you know, like coronavirus is not just an effect of us changing the planet. It's an effect of us changing ourselves and our ability to react to these things that are coming our way, right? So climate change is not just about, you know, we're changing ourselves by changing the planet. So we're reducing our ability to react to the natural world in a healthy way. And so when the natural world says, here's a, you know, here's a virus, here's a disease, here's a whatever, you know, we can't react to it correctly. Our bodies are changed. Our physiology has changed. We've screwed everything up. So maybe we should stop doing that. I mean, yes, be nicer to people that have weight issues. Yes, absolutely, we should do that. But that's not the only answer. Like, maybe we should, you know, consider not destroying the planet. Maybe that should be way more important than like, well, we really just need to be nicer to people that have weight problems. Okie dokie. You know. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's about it for me, guys. Kevin Shanholzer says it's not beyond their control. It's what they eat. Even so-called GMO, non-GMO, organic, natural processed food is just junk. A lot of it is. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just on a health level, the more, you know, the more naturally you can eat, the more, you know, the less processing you can have in your food, you know, the more raw foods you can eat or simple foods. Ryan Gorman says fat shaming to fat celebrating, right? Like, you know, yeah, that's funny. That's an interesting idea, though, because, like, fat shaming is not great. But, I mean, at some point, being super heavy is unhealthy. It's not, you know, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're a terrible person, but, like, you might not want to continue being heavy because you're going to not live as long and you're going to be unhealthy and your overall quality of life is not going to be that great. Anyways, got a super chat. Richard Monroe, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Anyways, interesting to me. Thanks, guys. Thank you for your eyes, ears, and your conscience. I will be on Rockfin exclusively tomorrow at 11 a.m. Please join me there on Rockfin. No YouTube video tomorrow. Rockfin only. So come hang out with me on Rockfin tomorrow. I'll see you guys all there. Till next time, peace.